Emily Carter had been afraid of love for most of her life, even though she rarely admitted it to herself. The fear lived quietly inside her, hidden behind routines, polite smiles, and carefully planned days. She did not talk about it. She did. Not give it a name. But it shaped every choice she made. She lived alone in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon. A place filled with books, soft lamps, and calm silence. From the outside, her life looked settled and successful. She worked at a respected publishing house as a senior assistant editor. Her coworkers trusted her judgment. Authors appreciated her honesty. She paid her bills on time and spent her weekends reading or walking through quiet parks. Yet something always felt unfinished. Emily woke up early every morning. Not because she loved mornings, but because quiet made her feel safe. She enjoyed the moments before the city became loud, when she could drink her coffee and look out the window without interruption. That window had seen many versions of her: hopeful, tired, thoughtful, but never truly open. Love had once been part of her life. Years ago, when she was younger and less careful, she had believed in it fully. She had trusted someone with her thoughts, her dreams, and her future. That relationship did not end in anger or betrayal. It ended slowly, painfully, with distance and silence. The person she loved did not fight to stay. They simply let go. That quiet ending had changed her forever. Since then, Emily had learned to protect herself. She kept people at a safe distance. She laughed easily but shared little. She built friendships that were warm but not deep. She told herself she was independent, that she didn't need anyone to feel complete. Most days she believed it. At work, Emily was known for her focus. She edited manuscripts with care, finding beauty in words without becoming part of the stories herself. She helped writers shape love stories, even though she had stopped believing she belonged in one. One Monday morning in early fall, the office manager announced that a freelance editor would be joining them for a short project. Emily barely looked up. Temporary people rarely left an impression. They came, they worked, they left. That was when Daniel Moore walked in. He was not loud or confident in a way that demanded attention. He simply greeted everyone with a calm smile and took his seat. He wore simple clothes, carried a worn leather bag, and moved with quiet purpose. When their eyes met briefly, Emily felt nothing special. Or so she thought. Their first conversation was about a manuscript. Professional, clear, easy. Daniel listened more than he spoke. When he did speak, his words were thoughtful, never rushed. He asked questions that showed he cared about the work, not about impressing anyone. Over the next few days, they found themselves working together more often. They discussed edits, deadlines, and ideas. Daniel respected her opinions. He never talked over her or dismissed her thoughts. Emily noticed this, even if she didn't dwell on it. What surprised her was how comfortable she felt around him. She didn't feel the need to perform or protect herself. She could be quiet without feeling awkward. She could speak honestly without fear of judgment. That comfort unsettled her more than attraction ever could. They began to share small details about their lives. Daniel mentioned he had moved around a lot. That editing allowed him freedom. Emily shared her love for old bookstores and rainy afternoons. None of it felt risky. None of it crossed the line she had drawn so carefully. But slowly, something inside her shifted. She started noticing small things: the way Daniel smiled when he solved a difficult problem, the way he focused deeply when reading, the patience in his voice. She caught herself wondering what kind of life he lived outside the office. Emily didn't like these thoughts. She reminded herself that Daniel was temporary. She reminded herself of how easily things could change. She told herself it was safer not to care still. She began to look forward to workdays more than before. One afternoon, the office was unusually quiet. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Daniel sat across from her, reviewing a manuscript. After a moment, he looked up. "This line," he said, pointing to the page, "it feels honest." Painful but honest. Emily nodded. That's usually the hardest kind to write. Daniel met her eyes. And the hardest kind to live. The words stayed with her long after the conversation ended. That evening, Emily walked home instead of taking the bus. She needed air. The city felt different, sharper somehow. She wondered why a simple sentence could affect her so deeply. She knew the answer. Even if she didn't want to face it, Daniel was reminding her of parts of herself she had hidden away. As weeks passed, Daniel became part of the office rhythm. Coffee breaks turned into quiet conversations. Meetings felt lighter when he was there. Emily noticed herself smiling more, laughing without effort. She also noticed the fear returning. Every time she felt close to him, a warning rose inside her. Don't let this grow. Don't make room for disappointment. Don't forget what happened last time, so she stayed careful. When coworkers teased them lightly, Emily brushed it off. When Daniel suggested working together again in the future, she responded politely but vaguely. She never invited him into her world beyond the office walls. Daniel never pushed. That made it harder. One Friday evening, as they packed up to leave, Daniel hesitated. Would you like to get coffee sometime? He asked, his tone calm, as if prepared for any answer. Time seemed to slow. Emily felt her heart tighten, not with excitement, but with fear. The old memories surfaced, the quiet ending, the unanswered questions, the long nights of doubt. She smiled gently. I'm really busy these days, she said. Daniel nodded without disappointment. I understand. He didn't ask again. That kindness felt heavier than pressure ever would have. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She lay awake, listening to the rain, staring at the ceiling. Her apartment felt quieter than usual, emptier. She realized she wasn't afraid of Daniel hurting her. She was afraid of wanting him. For years, she had believed that avoiding love kept her safe. But now, the safety felt lonely. The walls she had built were strong, but they also kept out warmth. She wondered how many moments she had missed because of fear. How many connections she had avoided before they could begin. At work the following week, she noticed Daniel's contract end date written on a calendar. The sight made her chest ache. She hadn't expected his presence to matter this much. She told herself it would pass. Temporary people always left. But when Daniel smiled at her from across the room, something inside her whispered a truth she could no longer ignore. She had spent her whole life afraid of love, and now, without meaning to, she was standing close to it again. The question she didn't yet know how to answer was simple and terrifying at the same time. Would she run away like before, or would she finally stay? Emily had tried to convince herself that Daniel's departure was just another moment she would survive. His freelance contract was ending, and soon he would be gone from the office. Just like other temporary people she had worked with before. She told herself it didn't matter, that she could handle it, that it was safer this way. But inside she felt a quiet tension, a pull she could not ignore. Every glance, every small smile from him reminded her that she had been avoiding something important for far too long. The days leading to his last week passed in a blur. Emily kept herself busy with editing tasks, emails, and scheduling, trying not to think about how much she wanted Daniel to stay. She avoided looking at the calendar, avoided imagining his absence, but every time she did catch a glimpse of the dates, her stomach twisted. She realized, with a mix of fear and surprise, that she cared more than she had expected. This was different from before. This wasn't just a fleeting admiration or a friendly fondness. It was something deeper, something that could change everything if she allowed it. Daniel, in his calm way, seemed unaware of the turmoil he caused. He worked steadily, engaging with the team, offering his help, sharing quiet laughter. He never pressed, never asked questions that might make her feel exposed. His presence was steady, comforting, and gentle, a contrast to the storm of emotions that Emily had been carefully avoiding for years. And yet that very steadiness made the idea of losing him unbearable. On Wednesday afternoon, Emily found herself lingering at her desk, pretending to review a manuscript but really watching Daniel organize his notes. He seemed so ordinary, so unassuming, and yet he had a way of making the world feel softer, warmer, safer. Her chest tightened, a mix of longing and fear. She reminded herself of her own rules. Don't let anyone in. Keep your heart protected. Never rely on someone else for happiness. But her mind rebelled against her own caution, imagining conversations that had yet to happen, smiles that had yet to be shared, and moments she might never have the courage to create. By Friday, Daniel's last day, Emily felt a strange combination of dread and anticipation. The office seemed quieter than usual, almost hollow, without the usual rhythm of conversations, keyboard clicks, and laughter. She noticed the subtle absence of his presence even before he arrived. And when he finally walked in, carrying his leather bag with the same calm smile, her heart skipped in a way she had not expected. All day, they worked side by side, sharing corrections, feedback, and small jokes that only they seemed to understand. There was a comfort in their silence, a rhythm that felt natural, yet Emily felt the weight of the ending pressing closer with every hour. She tried to focus on work, telling herself that leaving emotions aside was safer, that feelings were unnecessary. But with each passing minute, it became harder to maintain that distance. She realized that avoiding emotional risk had kept her safe, yes, but it had also left her life empty in ways she had tried to ignore. As the afternoon sun slanted through the office windows, casting golden lines on the floor, Daniel paused, looking at her with a softness that made Emily's chest tighten. He spoke carefully, with quiet warmth. "There's something I wanted to say, Emily, but I didn't want to make you uncomfortable." Emily's heart began to race. Her mind tried to reason, to prepare her for rejection, for disappointment, for anything that might protect her from being hurt again. But even as she braced herself, she felt a flutter of hope she hadn't allowed in years. Daniel continued, his eyes calm and steady. "I know you're careful, and I respect that. I just want you to know, meeting you mattered to me." He didn't ask for a response. He didn't ask for promises or for her to make a decision. He simply shared a truth, quietly, gently, without pressure. Emily felt her chest tighten further. The words, though simple, carried weight. They reminded her of the courage she had always lacked, the willingness to trust, the willingness to open herself to something real. For a long moment, neither spoke. Emily felt a flood of emotions: fear, longing, uncertainty, and an unfamiliar excitement. She realized that she had been avoiding love for so long, not because it was dangerous, but because it required vulnerability. She had feared the unknown, the possibility of loss, the chance that opening her heart could lead to pain. But in Daniel's presence, the fear felt less important. What mattered more was the possibility of something beautiful, something real, something worth taking a chance. For, finally, her voice came soft and trembling, but firm enough to carry meaning. "Coffee," she said, a small smile breaking across her face. "If the offer still stands." Daniel's expression shifted subtly, warmth spreading across his features. "I'd like that," he replied, the calmness in his tone now carrying something deeper, a hint of relief, a hint of shared understanding. They stepped out of the office together, the city streets glowing with the late afternoon sun. The air smelled faintly of rain from earlier in the day, fresh and clean. Emily felt a lightness she had not experienced in years, a mixture of nervous anticipation and cautious hope. Every step she took alongside Daniel felt like a step into a world she had kept locked away, a world she had avoided out of fear. And yet it was exactly where she wanted to be. The walk was quiet at first, filled with the simple sounds of city life, the hum of distant traffic, the faint laughter of children. In the park, the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. Emily felt Daniel's presence beside her as steady and grounding. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to imagine what the future could hold. There were no promises yet, no grand declarations, just two people walking side by side, aware of the possibilities, willing to take the first step. Emily realized that love was not something to fear. It had been fear itself that had kept her locked away, that had whispered that vulnerability was dangerous. But vulnerability also brought connection, warmth, and the chance for happiness she had long denied herself. Meeting Daniel had forced her to confront that fear, to see that life without taking chances was emptier than life with risk. As they reached a small cafe tucked into a quiet street corner, Emily's heartbeat felt like it had a rhythm all its own, separate from the world around her. She realized that nothing had changed instantly, but everything had changed quietly, subtly, in ways that mattered deeply. The walls she had built were still there, but she was no longer afraid to let them down. Daniel held the door open, and Emily stepped inside, the warmth of the cafe embracing her. Smell of fresh coffee and baked goods filled the air, comforting and grounding. She found a seat near the window, and Daniel joined her, smiling in a way that made the nervous fluttering in her chest feel welcome rather than threatening. They ordered coffee, simple and warm, and for a moment neither spoke. They simply sat together, two people who had found something unexpected in each other. Emily realized that this quiet moment, simple and unassuming, held more meaning than any dramatic gesture could. It was the beginning of something real, something grounded, something she had feared yet always hoped for without knowing it. As they talked, Emily discovered that vulnerability could be gentle, that risk could be comforting, that love did not always come with heartbreak or loss. It could come slowly, quietly, in shared smiles, in understanding glances, in conversations that lingered just enough to make the heart beat faster without overwhelming it. By the time they left the cafe, Emily felt a sense of calm determination she had never known. She was still cautious, still aware of her own fears, but she had chosen to step forward. She had chosen to embrace the unknown, to allow herself to feel something real, something meaningful. The streets of Portland glowed with the soft light of early evening. Emily and Daniel walked side by side, no words needed for the comfort that existed between them. She realized that love was not the danger she had imagined. Avoiding it was. And for the first time in her life, she chose to step forward, to say yes to life, to connection, to possibility. And in that choice, Emily found freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from the past, freedom to feel. And as the city lights reflected in puddles from the earlier rain, she understood that sometimes the biggest change in life comes not from a dramatic moment, but from the courage to take the first simple step. For Emily, everything had changed, not in an instant, but in the quiet acceptance of what she had feared most. She had been afraid of love her whole life, but now she realized that love was not something to fear. It was something to embrace. And with Daniel beside her, the future felt wide open, waiting for her to walk forward one step at a time.